We're going to be starting here in a couple minutes, so if you guys can start finishing up and find your seats, please. Thank you so much.
Good morning. It's 9 o'clock. We're going to get started. Got some folks online waiting for us. Sorry I didn't give you your warning to get extra coffee. You could sneak back. How many of you are here from out of town? Oh my gosh, so many people from out of town. So the Compiler team, I'm from Compiler. There's so many new faces, I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Vicky, I founded Compiler. We're a software consulting group that helps government agencies with digital transformation projects. Most of our clients right now are in the transit space, so you'll notice a lot of our talks are about transit because we meet cool people and we invite them down. Trees, it turns out, is incredibly popular. We have so many new people here today, but I do want to point out Leela and Shelby, Andy, Anthony, John. There's so many people from our team who happen to be in the office today, which is pretty exciting. We have Tony Jordan from the Parking Network, who's here from Portland, Jumbe from Philadelphia. There's a lot of new faces. Thanks for coming out. If you have not been here before, you are on the LaCrutz campus of the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator. If you'd like to learn more, I'd be happy to introduce the staff. They do tours every Wednesday. We're in the half of the building that is the sort of co-working membership space. We have offices here. Ciclavia has offices here. Climate Resolve has offices here. The other half of the building is incubator space for clean tech companies. And LADWP owns the building and has some offices and some really cool exhibits up front as well. We are live streaming. We'll be turning the live streaming off before Q&A. And then some of our favorite jobs boards are up here. Sometimes we try to shout out some cool jobs. Metrolink right now is hiring a partnerships coordinator, which seems like a pretty cool job. I could look that one up. We are going to be back here in a month, August 26th, with the County Homelessness Services and Housing Department speaking. Parking is a hot topic right now. UCLA has a new program. They'll be doing a live stream next month. They've also just announced parking is going to be the theme of their spring conference next year. And do save the date. We're going to do a Christmas happy hour again, first Tuesday in December. And with that, I'd love to introduce you to Dan, who's been working on GIS the county for 27 years.
Almost.
And I'll let him take it from here.
That's not working. Now we're talking. I was like, what Vicky is doing right now is not showing for everybody. Thanks a lot. All right, we are up and running. Thank you. Well, thank you everybody for being here. My name is Dan Hoffman. I work for the Department of Regional Planning for LA County, and I'm going to talk about our site that we're calling the Tree Hub, and that's part of this function of the site is to download GIS data related to trees, but also to link out to other web mapping applications and documents related to tree projects that we're working on. So I'm going to do a brief background on our department and what we do, and then I'm going to walk through the tree hub, and I'm going to switch to the live site, so hopefully there won't be any issues with that. We'll see. And I'm going to talk about internal and external collaboration throughout, because the tree hub is a collaborative space, and part of why it looks the way it does is because of all the collaboration we've had between different departments. And then just a brief list of the technology we used. So our department focuses on the unincorporated areas of LA County, which you see in yellow here. In terms of LA County departments, we're relatively small. We're about 200 employees, and we have 8 GIS staff, of which I'm a part. We have a full suite of web mapping applications that help the public and our planning colleagues do analysis, look at different data sets. For example, we have a site called GISNet where the public can enter in their address, zoom to their parcel, look at aerial imagery, zoning, see if there's any environmental constraints on their land or hazard areas, etc. So that's a little bit about what we do. So this is a quote from our Tree Hub site, and we want to give people the best tree data possible, and I want to talk about authoritative data sources. I started doing GIS in the last century, and back in the mid-90s, we did not have the cloud or anything. We had to create a lot of our own data. We had to put these paper maps on digitizers and create the actual data sets. If we wanted data from another department, they would have to burn it onto a CD and walk over and give it to us. So it was hard to get data. Now we have the opposite problem. Most of us who work with data, or if you even think about your email inbox, we're swimming in data or drowning in data, and we want to get the best data sets out there. So I'm going to show you what the authoritative data sets look like that we're trying to have in our hub site. And as this quote says, this is a work in progress still. The hub site has been on for about a year live, and so we want to collaborate with you and hear from you as well what we're missing, what needs to be added to the site. And this is it. So if you wanted to scan the QR code, go ahead. I tested it yesterday. It works. One time I put a QR code on a presentation and the QR code expired and everyone was mad, so it won't happen this time. So yeah, this presentation is going to be a little technical in nature, but not overly so. And this says LA County GIS for trees. You don't have to be a GIS analyst to use this. You don't even have to download GIS data to use this site, because there's a lot of great information in here that's non-technical. So speaking of data, when we're talking about tree data, one of my colleagues came up with this analogy, and I think it's really great. Blanket data versus quilt data. So blanket data, like the name implies, are data that's extracted for a big area, a big region. So think all of LA County, or at least most of it. A lot of this kind of data is extracted from remote sensing, right? Collecting aerial imagery. And this hyperlink you see underlined here, LARIAC program, this is our countywide consortium where several different departments and agencies pool money together to hire a vendor to collect aerial imagery from a low-flying aircraft. And at the same time, depending on the year, we also extract digital terrain of LA County and all the stuff that's on top of it, like the vegetation and trees, building outlines, etc. So that's an example of blanket data. So quilt data is a patchwork of data sets that different departments maintain. And I'll show you what that looks like. So this is a screenshot from something we call the tree universe, and this is embedded on our hub site. And this just gives people a taste of the types of data sets we have. And there's actually more data sets that are not publicly available, so we're working to try and get them publicly available. But what you see in these kind of linear dots, that's from our public works department. They maintain trees in the right-of-ways, and this is how they track tree maintenance and things like that. You also see some data related to pest infestations, which I'm going to talk about as well. And this is an example of blanket data. So that's what you see in the background, that dark green color draping over the terrain. That is a tree canopy for all of LA County. And it was extracted in 2023 from that LARIAC program that I talked about. And it is millions of polygons delineating the canopy of the trees. Now, just to manage expectations, we don't have species information in this data set. That is like one of our biggest dreams to have that, but nonetheless, this is a really powerful data set to have. And then you also see some of the quilt data too on top. So those glowing red dots are where these oak woodlands are being attacked by an invasive pest, and I'm going to talk about that as well. Okay, here's where I back out of the site here, and I'm going to be brave and do this, okay? Okay. I haven't used a Mac in a while. Okay, well, that works. So this is what the hub site looks like. There's different sections you can navigate to. But what we have here is oak trees, and I have to press down on the trackpad. Okay, got it. I'm technical. So this is one of the non-technical parts of the tree hub site. So oak trees are very important to our department because oak trees are a protective species. If you want to do anything on your land and it's going to impact oak trees, you have to get a permit. So we look a lot at oak trees. But this gives you an overview of why they're important to the environment, what they're native, and what are some of their qualities. What are some of the habitats that these oak trees provide? Different regions for different species. You know, it's not all just the same species everywhere. There's a lot of them, and they all depend on different areas. And it also goes into oak tree species and things like that, just at a very high level. And sprinkled throughout this hub site, you'll see these Learn More buttons. And if you click this, you can get a deeper dive into this particular oak. And our goal is to put more of these types of buttons in the hub site. Because if you think of a hub, think of like a wheel, like one of those old wagon wheels with the spokes coming out. The hub is the center with all this information and all this narrative, and you can click on buttons and go out to other sites and other web mapping applications and things like that, and download data. Let's see, the other one I want to go to, I want to talk about invasive pests, okay. So the gold-spotted oak borer is something we're really battling here in LA County. I'm going to call it GSOB for short. And this page in particular goes into GSOB, but it also goes into other invasive pests that are impacting our other trees. Because it's not just about oak trees, it's about all trees in LA County. And I want to talk in particular about this data set and a field visit I did recently. This is a data set mapping GSOB infestation, and then the red areas are where the trees are being attacked. Sometimes it's just an observation, sometimes it's just the GSOB is getting into the trees themselves. So I recently did a field visit with several of my planning colleagues and met with other departments who are part of the invasive pest control group, and they're out there doing the fight, trying to save these trees from this infestation. This GSOB is a beetle that came from Arizona, made its way up through San Diego County, and is now attacking oak woodlands and oak trees in our county. And it's a unique way to collaborate because a lot of us do collaboration digitally on Teams and in meetings and such, but to actually be at a site related to that topic you're talking about, GSOB, and then brainstorm different ideas and share frustrations and talk about different ways we can map the GSOB impact, using drones, using handheld devices under the tunnels of the oak canopy itself. So it was a somber visit for sure, but I'm glad I went. And it was hot and dusty, and these folks who go out there and fight this pest, they're out there in the field, and it's uncomfortable. And I'm really grateful to them, and I'm grateful I got to experience that. And then there's also something called the GSOB Blitz. This is where These departments do outreach events and try and get people involved to volunteer to go out and map these trees that are where they see evidence of GSOB. Okay, then the last thing I'll show, I talked about permits. This is a link to our permit viewer. If you click on that green button, this takes you to a totally different site that's outside of the Tree Hub. And what it does is this links to our Epic LA site, or Epic LA data, and this is our permitting data that our department and several other departments manage. And it pre-selects all the permits related to oak trees, so you can zoom in on certain areas and look at that. Okay. Here's where I go back to the presentation. Let's see if that goes. All right, I did it. Cool. All right, we talked about that. Okay, maps and data. So if you're a GIS person and if you're working for a department or some sort of conservation group or what have you, you can download GIS data. This is, like I said, a work in progress, so we're still gathering data, but we have enough data now to where we can put things into categories. So you see tree canopy data, public tree inventories, and data or websites related to research projects. And this is what it looks like when you click on the data button. There's a whole list of data sets. You can filter it by GIS data or maps and apps. So you can see some of this data and not be a GIS person, but you can look at it through a mapping application. So we have a lot of those in this hub site as well. Okay, metadata. Any of you who work with data, not just GIS data, you probably have had to deal with metadata. You know, us GIS people like to make cool maps and apps and visualize data, but then it comes down to documenting it, and that's the boring part, right? But it's so important. GIS is a lot about documentation. That might be the most important thing, especially if you're publishing data to this GIS cloud platform called ArcGIS Online. ArcGIS Online has millions of data sets, so if you're publishing data like this, and this is public facing, and it's being used for data collection, so it's important. By the way, this is not a data set from LA County. I just found it elsewhere, but I didn't have to look too hard. Unfortunately, there are data sets like this, you know. You have no idea what it means. Tree subset, I don't know what kind of trees they're a subset of. I don't know who did this, so basically I would not trust this layer. So we're not interested in these kinds of layers in the Tree Hub. We are interested in layers that are well documented, well vetted. Like this one is great. This is that same tree canopy data set that I showed earlier. And this has full description, links to other data sources and other information and methodology. Or there was even like a story map made of how this data set got created. So these are the types of data sets we're after because we want to give you guys these data sets to be confident in them. And this is what that layer looks like. So when you click on a data layer, it takes you to this preview page, and then it also has information about the data. And you can download it too. Although I will say that some data sets like this is a really huge data set. It's literally like millions of polygons throughout the whole county, so you can't download the raw data, but it does link you to a live map service to where you can bring it into your maps or software or what have you. Okay, this last part, tools and resources, this is a mix of different things. It's links to websites, it's links to web mapping applications. So you see on the right, left-hand side, you'll see in the hub site there's these cards, and these are kind of these are showcased web mapping applications that you can click on and view data. And in the lower left-hand corner, there's links to surveys. So if you see a damaged tree or if you're concerned about tree health, you can click on any of these surveys and someone will help you. And in the lower right-hand corner, we have a whole bunch of hyperlinks to different sites. And we try to organize them by, you know, invasive pests, native tree protection, etc. So you can also find out about how to plant native trees and how to prune trees, how to find an arborist, learn more about oak trees. So there's lots of different information that's not necessarily technical, doesn't involve GIS data that you can link to, because we want this to be a service to the public as well. So like I said, any hub site or story map or what have you, the hardest part of that is getting the content in there, the narrative in there. So we collaborate with these departments, so you see that on the bottom bar. These are all the departmental logos of the departments we work with. And they're the subject matter experts on a lot of tree data. I mean, I've learned a lot about trees, but I'm not necessarily a subject matter expert on GSOB or anything like that. So these kind folks have worked with us and provided content. And, you know, we're in a lot of committee meetings and we collaborate that way and share ideas, but we don't have any fancy project management software that we use. Most of the LA County people use Teams, so that's what we use, you know. And sometimes it's good to just use technology that people know and are comfortable with. And one way we collaborate on the upper right-hand corner is you see a snippet of a Word document that's editable by multiple people. And that's where people put in ideas of what they would like to see on the hub site. And then once we implement it, we say, done, in bold green letters. And so we know that we know that the idea that was presented is now in the hub site. We are looking into maybe doing some task-related software like Microsoft Planner or something like that. But for now, this is how we're collaborating internally. And we want to collaborate with all of you here and all of you out in the public. This is a very simple survey. You can put in your name and email and just a comment. What do you like about the site? What's not intuitive? What's not working for you? What are some good data layers that we don't know about, that we don't have in here? We want to hear from you, because this hub site is, it's as good as the collaboration efforts. You know, we want to hear from everybody who knows about trees and knows about certain studies and things like that. And here's our tech stack. It's a short list, I know. Anything that says ArcGIS is coming from Esri. They're the company that makes most of the world's GIS software that people use. So we use ArcGIS Pro to do a lot of the data crunching and analysis. We publish those results on ArcGIS Online. And then a lot of the stuff that's on ArcGIS Online gets funneled into this hub site for trees. And then Teams, as I mentioned, for collaborating. A lot of people helped with this hub site, but these kind folks in particular, were very instrumental in terms of just maintaining the hub site. You know, our department maintains the site, but we get a lot of the information from different people. And some of these folks too are champions of this site. They go out and do outreach and tell people about the tree hub and give us good information, and then, you know, give us good data analysis ideas as well. So I want to thank you all for your time and attention.